Why should brands in 2026 consider having their own podcast? Janet, Rich, welcome to The Cave.
Hello.
Thank you.
So why should brands care about generating content and specifically talking heads?
Yeah, for me, the biggest thing is in this AR world, and we're served just endless reams of AR content. I think it's important for brands to be actual human beings in front of a camera and talking about their businesses. I think you can hopefully cut through the slop that way.
Yeah, I think the AI slop is just skippable now. We're over it. People
Well,
garbage.
yeah, I think we underestimate the fact that loads of people haven't got to the point where they can identify what's real
They definitely haven't.
and what's not real.
My mom is one of those people.
So, sorry.
Well, it'll happen though. It'll happen.
Yes,
I
but
think.
so I think that the ability for a brand to appear as real humans is going to be part of what distinguishes real content from AR content.
Yeah.
Like people in all their glory,
Yeah. So
not perfect models, real people that know a topic and are sharing their insights and their knowledge on a topic.
Having
That's
a
where
podcast,
can help.
having a podcast for your brand also introduces a level of intimacy. If you hear a founder talking about their brand or something like that, it's very personal.
And it's
very
fascinating because it's unique.
It's not even compared to AR. Even if you have a blog or a LinkedIn article or something saying the same sort of stuff, it's much more intimate to actually see and hear someone talking.
yeah, and it does that build trust thing, right?
Yeah.
And isn't that what we have to do with our brands? If consumer doesn't trust the brand, they don't buy the brand, right?
Yeah,
Well, and
So-
trust now, sorry,
it's all good.
is a problem. I mean, there's even AI generated testimonials videos of people now. It's becoming
Unplayable.
unplayable. If I see a brand using AR, I immediately kind of question that brand. I mean, I saw Checkers using AR the other day, and I thought, surely Checkers, you're better than that.
So if you are out there, let us know how you
Is it
feel,
hot in here
checkers.
now? Or was it just me?
Checkers, just give us a call.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that there's a couple of things with the content side. So you said that right at the beginning. It's content generation. So I think that marketing companies and marketing teams within big brands have been dealing with the content creation story for long enough now. They understand that creating good content is part of building that brand story. When you have a great story, people buy into it, and then Bob's your uncle, they buy your product, they buy your service. And the thing with a podcast, and particularly a video podcast, is that people can come into that at any time they want to. So it's different to advertising where it's placed in front of me. This is a pull tactic. So I can get a person to come and listen to what I have to say. They're only going to do that if they actually care about the topic. So if I'm sharing great knowledge about something, people are going to come to that. They want the quality information. And that is why having something that is like a repository for your brand's story and insight in the form of a podcast can really benefit.
Okay. So let's talk about that advertising thing a little bit. Because obviously we've got to take budget out of somewhere to do a podcast.
Yeah.
So how are the new platforms and the new feature sets on YouTube affecting ad watching versus content watching?
Well, I mean, ads have been skippable for forever, but you still see ads on YouTube, which tells you that they're working. So, I don't think ads are ever going to go away. People are still going to go to YouTube. Ads will still exist there. But now it's more going to be a question of, as a brand, do you want to just be an advertiser with the potential for someone to skip your little 30-second bumper? Or are you going to be a brand where people are seeking out your content and watching it in a longer form?
Yeah. Because
I see what you're saying.
like audiences are ad adverse now anyway.
Adverse.
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 Adverse. One of those words. So in other words, we're seeking ways to get around ads all the time to get to the content.
Well, that's the authenticity whole thing again that we opened with. It's just now you're just talking to people as a human. It seems much less addy.
Addy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think, podcast is great because your audience can like passively listen to it. Like they're not having to look at their screen and see your ad. They can a lot of people consume podcasts with headphones on while they're working or driving in the car, something like that. So you sort of like tap into a whole other audience.
Okay. So are podcasts maturing and coming to the end of their lifespan? Is the shininess going away from podcasts, or are
No.
we still to see the big...
The opposite.
The opposite.
The opposite.
Why?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I mean, if you've just noticed recently how Netflix is bringing podcasts into its media formats, that tells you a lot.
Yeah.
The content, even it's interesting to me, even some of the content on Netflix almost has a video podcast feel, but like pre-podcasts. So I think that in some YouTube channels that are now being brought into Netflix as shows, and podcasts that are being brought into Netflix as shows, you're seeing a bit of an overlap.
Yeah.
That content type, where you've got a person talking to camera or talking to mates or sitting around a table, is highly watchable. And I think that when you are producing something that's either very entertaining, very educational, maybe a little crossover of the two, if you can get that right, you will find an audience and there will be the right people.
Yeah.
And that's what really differentiates this kind of content from advertising. Advertising is spray and pray.
Yeah.
You're out there, you're putting stuff out in front of a bigger audience, hoping that one or two of those people are really well positioned to purchase in that moment. But there's tremendous wastage. And that's from someone who sells advertising all day long.
Yeah, I think it's a lot more niche. Like you don't need 1 million viewers of your ad. You need 500 of the right listeners of your podcast. Is more valuable.
I couldn't have put it better myself.
So let's talk about other types of content, right?
Okay.
If I had a choice, if I had to do 45 1-minute TikToks versus a 45-minute podcast, where would you advise me to go? What should I do? Specifically maybe for a B2B business.
I'd probably do both.
No, but I have to choose.
Then
Well,
I would do the 45-minute.
Well, you do the 45-minute because you can use a 45-minute podcast to generate a lot of your other content.
Yes.
You can't do it. You can't stitch your 45 TikToks together to make one 45-minute cohesive conversation.
It would be
But you
a
can
hell of a ride.
You can cut down your pod. That's why we really like them, because you film your podcast episode and then you get cut downs from it to post as reels and as shorts and as TikToks and those sorts of things.
I totally agree with that, but there's another angle here as well. 1-minute TikToks, great, entertaining, maybe food for thought, but you just go, whook, and they're gone,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The difference with content that is a little bit more in depth, and I'm also not sure 45 minutes is necessarily the number that we all need to hang our hats on here, but that piece of content, when it's specific and educational and useful, gets saved. It's the same as why we're seeing this little turnaround in Instagram at the moment. I don't know if you've heard about this, but we're starting to see a move away from Reels, which everyone was like mad about Reels for a phase. Instagram was pushing them hard. Now it's going back to carousels. So that single still or video that you can scroll through because of the number of saves. So as a brand, content that's saved is returned to. It's much more valuable.
Yeah.
So when you're producing content, and why I'd love you to do both is because those quick 30-second clips get a person to have awareness of your content. So you kind of need those also. But the 45-minute or however long you decide it's going to be is where the real value sits.
Let's talk a little bit about the strategy with podcasts, right? So are podcasts just brand awareness, or can we drive sales?
Yeah, I think.
I'll take it if you want.
No, well, I'll add my 2 cents here. I think that ultimately brand awareness is about sales. It's just a longer game.
You can't get sales without brand awareness.
Okay, but let's be a bit more on the nose. Let me re-ask the question.
Yeah, I think that was good.
So obviously our podcast is going to create brand awareness, but will we be able to generate sales through it?
Yes.
I knew what your question was. I just
Yes.
didn't want to answer it. You go for it.
Okay. I think that if someone is well positioned to buy, so in the journey to make a decision about a purchase,
Yeah.
they happen upon a bit of content that resonates, they will purchase. But if they are not aware of your product or service, then they could never purchase. So you have to start with brand awareness.
Yeah.
You have to be familiar with something before you decide to purchase it. And then I think there has to be all these other signals as well for you to decide that you're going to part with your hard-earned rands. Can a podcast drive purchase, and can we see a direct correlation with episode 34 and this person signing up over here? Much more difficult. But that's the same problem marketers have had since the first newspaper, right? How do we know that it was specifically that ad in the classifieds or this social post on Instagram?
It's not solely responsible.
It's not, but it's part of a greater story. And I think the difference with podcasts compared to a lot of the advertising work we do as brands is that you are forced to sit and be real and talk about a topic, a subject that you know well. And when you do that, it's weird how that also correlates with more people trusting you. And it's weird how that also turns into more people wanting to participate in what you're offering.
You've also just got to do your pod. You've got to be consistent. Once you've built up an audience, yes, I think you could discuss a product and offer a coupon code or whatever. You could make it quite sales.
That's true.
Well, we do know
That's
that something like 70% of YouTube audiences do their purchasing decisions through content.
Well, I mean, I don't
there we
buy
go.
a thing anymore until I've watched a bunch of people who clearly don't actually know anything about robot vacuums, but they've been gifted one and now they're testing them, and 98% of them are not truly honest about said robot vacuum. But, you know, once you've watched enough, you go, okay, yes, that's the purchase for me, or no, it's not.
Yeah, because
Did you buy a robot vacuum?
I haven't, because too many people have said they're actually garbage.
they look garbage. But anyway,
The tech's too new.
so if you want to know our opinion on a robot, no, so I mean, we obviously trust a lot in
Yes.
people on screens.
Yes, 100%.
So why would a brand not want to be one of those
Yes.
people?
I guess maybe what is a little bit antagonistic to our stance is that I haven't actually gone onto one of the manufacturers' websites and seen if they've got a podcast, and should I watch that, would I be convinced in the opposite direction to buy a robot vacuum?
I think what I've done is maybe not with robot vacuums or a physical product, but when you're trying to figure out what service is best for you within a group, and you've got two people talking about how they use a service versus the other package versus the other package, that's pretty useful.
Yeah.
And that becomes a sales tool
Yes.
because we're explaining our
Yes.
offerings and
Yes.
which offering suits who.
I think that's actually also quite an important distinction at this point. When is a podcast right for a business? And I think a lot of times it's the kinds of businesses that are B2B. You know, as a manufacturer of consumer goods, maybe a podcast would be not really something you would do. But what you might do is latch onto podcasts that are talking about a particular topic, and then you would be an advertiser there.
Yeah. So you generate content around what your core audiences, your core consumer wants to be involved with, and then by association you sell your product.
Yeah.
So Yeti does this incredibly well in the US, where they make short documentary films of adventurers and all sorts of
That
places.
makes sense.
Yeah.
You never even see the product,
Yeah.
and it's a successful strategy for them.
Yeah.
I want to know how we can tap into the sweet robot vacuum money. I want the robot vacuum.
Well, if you guys want us to review a robot vacuum on the show, let us know in the comments below.
Yes, I'm in the market. I will test all of them happily.
Okay, so let's talk about quality. Is it acceptable in 2026 to just shoot this in the boardroom with a couple of iPhones because we saw that's okay?
No.
Why not?
Well, because if you are a legitimate business and you want to be taken seriously, people will see that you just shot it with an iPhone in your boardroom. I don't know. I wouldn't take that seriously.
I think it probably was fine, but now the quality of podcasting in general is increasing. And you mentioned earlier, even like TV stations are producing podcasts now. The quality is becoming a defining
element,
factor.
Yeah.
And if you are still filming it in your boardroom, you're failing.
I would say that there would need to be someone in your team who actually knows how to produce video content and has some decent gear and is able to set up good lights, good sound. And I think audio is probably the thing that most people neglect to focus on. If you happen to be in a situation where you've got someone in your team who's good with all of that and can create a scenario where you can replicate that with regularity, maybe.
I think film your podcast in your boardroom if you have a full podcasting setup in there.
Full studio.
Full studio. But
Then it
don't
probably
if it's
wouldn't
a
be a
ring light
boardroom.
and your cell phone.
Yeah.
We were listening to a podcast on the way up here, and the audio was so bad we could barely hear it. We were just like, well,
We just skipped that
I'm not
whole.
going to listen to this.
Yeah.
And then we listened to one with better audio.
And then we're doing the
I think-
opposite of what we're trying to do, which is build
Yes,
trust.
exactly. I
And
think.
establish credibility.
Yeah.
And then it sounds like you're talking underwater. It's not great.
Right, guys, starting with Janet, give me your top reason why a brand in 2026 should have a podcast.
A brand in 2026 that doesn't have a podcast is going to be way back in the queue. Your competitors are probably doing it. They're doing it beautifully, and they're going to take away all your leads because that's who the customer is going to trust.
Okay. Rich?
I think a brand needs a podcast to cut through the AI slop and actually have a human being presenting the brand as a human to other humans. I also think it's a great way to actually just get multiple pieces of content. Film one episode and get social posts, reels, blog posts, everything out of it.
Okay, and I think it's one of the best brand awareness tools available to brands today.
Yeah.
To showcase the quality of your brand, the humans behind your brand, and build the trust, like you said. Thanks, guys. I think that was an awesome quick fire on why podcasts are great. I think we could talk for a lot longer.
Absolutely.
If you guys have reasons why podcasts work or don't work, let us know in the comments.